Welcome back to the Mile 40 podcast. Season 4 is underway. Today's episode is sure to be riveting, and I am going to dive right in. Today, I am joined by Dave Allred. Dave is the managing partner and CEO of Axia Partners. He's a public speaker, an executive business consultant, and a prominent figure in the real estate world. Allred's life reflects what a person can do when they live with intentionality and a willingness to do today what others won't, so tomorrow you can have what others can't. Dave's going to walk us through his journey. It wasn't all roses for him. And, he knows that this podcast is all about diving into those pit to peak moments. But just to give you a little bit of insight, Allred's extensive experience in real estate includes single family flips, hard money lending, Airbnb, multifamily, self-storage, senior housing, land acquisition and entitlement, distressed debt, joint ventures, syndications, and fund management. Now, based on what I know about Dave and what he's going to walk us through earlier, I imagine there was a point in his life where none of that would have been linked to his bio. And so first and foremost, Dave, thanks for joining me today.
Excited to be here. Grateful for the opportunity. Let's dive in.
Let's do it. So I know you're based in Utah now. Let's talk about where you grew up.
So I grew up in central Utah, a small town called Manti. Population about 2,000 people. In fact, we actually just got our first stoplight down there about 2 years ago. It was a pretty deal, pretty exciting. Grew up in a very low income home. My dad worked 2 different jobs. We definitely never really had anything to speak of in terms of monetary finances, quality of life, etc. More just trying to survive down there. Parents separated a few times, 1 year at a time, trying to, and then get back together for the kids. And it never really worked out. A lot of dysfunction. And I say that, my older sister ran away when she was 15. I ran away when I was 17. Moved into this little shack, paying $200 a month in rent. Roof was falling in, cockroaches, living off of, ramen noodles and fast food. And my little brother moved in with me a year later, ran away from home, got emancipated. And it was a pretty tough, upbringing. With that being said, I actually am very grateful for that. I think that I learned a lot about, life, about, challenges and grit and ambition and kind of what it takes to break through the mold. And it also really inspired me as to what I wanted to do differently in my own personal life as a businessman, as a father, as a husband, etc. So that's kind of where it all started.
Wow. So was it just you and your older sister and younger brother? There's the 3 of you?
Also my younger sister, she stayed home until she was 18.
Got it. So there are the 4 of you. And it seems like, for the most part, you all grew up pretty quickly. I know that, you had mentioned to me that you were on your own by the age of 17. Is that correct?
Yes.
And, was schooling normal for you, or did you take a different route?
School's interesting. So I got a 3.9 GPA. I actually did pretty well at school. I've always, whenever I put my mind to something, I've always been pretty successful at that. And, and then I went to college, and kind of fast forward, I was, so I was living in this little home, and I ended up going to college, and while I was at college, they had a recruiting booth set up to go out and sell home security systems door to door. And I never wanted to do door-to-door sales. And the truth is, there's nothing sexy about door-to-door sales. It's not glamorous. But they had a recruiting booth set up and Krispy Kreme donuts sitting out. And I'm like, hey, I'm a college student, grab a donut. Next thing you know, I'm out in Chicago, Illinois for 4 months in the summer selling home security systems. And I got to say, that was actually the hardest thing I'd ever done in my life. My first week, I'd sold 1 account. My first entire month, it was 6 accounts. And midway through the summer, I was failing miserably. It had been really, really bad, actually. About 80% of our team had quit, gone home because it was so hard. And my roommate actually was walking down the street and ended up getting shot in the calf by a .22 caliber, in the leg. And just because he was not walking down the streets of Chicago, the guy left Chicago. And so even more of our team quit, and I was kind of one of the last guys standing. And I thought about quitting every single day. In fact, I probably thought about quitting every probably about every hour, every day. And it was so hard and challenging, man, because, it's not a fun job. It's hard. It's challenging. You're getting rejected every day. Just kind of getting your teeth kicked in. And, it really, but luckily I decided to, kind of double down and give it everything I had that summer. And I finished the last 2 months very strong. I sold 121 accounts and I made $31,000, which for me, that was, even to today, that was the most meaningful, important money I've ever made in my life. It was more than my parents had ever made. It was, really kind of just helped me. It gave me enough confidence to come back the following year. And I came back as a sales manager, recruited a team of 22 other salespeople and made $156,000 that year. And, for me, even to today, that was the second most important money I've ever made, because it really helped break through some of those limiting belief systems that I had growing up. If you'd asked me as a child, as a youth or as a young man, like what my potential earning potential would be, I'd probably say maybe $100,000, like best case scenario if I played my cards perfectly. And so to be able to make that kind of money, my first year as a sales manager was really inspiring, and it really helped me to think a lot bigger. And so I came back the next year as a regional manager, made $256,000, and then the next year over $500,000, and it just kind of grew it from there. But I got to say, and it's really led to this beautiful, career, 15-year leadership career, managing 121 sales teams in 41 states. And, I'm really grateful for that. I think that if I would have quit, looking back like most of the guys did, it would have completely changed the trajectory of my life. And so I'm so grateful for having not quit and had, the foresight or the grit or the tenacity to be able to continue with what I'd committed to. I think that's a really important skill set, right? Especially nowadays. I think a lot of times when things get hard, human nature is we want to take the course of least resistance. And I truly believe that sometimes the best opportunities, both in personal development as well as in business, are when it's the hard way, the harder route, because nobody else is willing to do that. Even in real estate today, I run a fund with over $100 million, in commercial real estate across the country. And sometimes the very best deals we find are actually deals that have some hair on them. They're tough, they're hard because everybody else is passing up on that opportunity. And so, I'll kind of summarize this saying, what I've learned is to become comfortable being uncomfortable. And I think knocking doors, is one of the best ways to be able to teach that. And, today I've got 4 children, ages 8 through 16. And I expect that they all go out and do at least one, season of door-to-door sales, no matter how affluent or abundant, we have, in our lifestyle. I think that those life skills are very valuable in today's world.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And, as you were speaking about that, we did have one other guest on the show who started their career in door-to-door sales and became very successful. And one of the unifiers here between you and them was the adversity, faced in childhood. And it kind of makes me, think, you said it yourself, door-to-door sales is not cut out for everybody. And, 80% of the people will walk away from it because you will get beat up in the door-to-door industry. I want to dive into it a little bit more and, ask about your ability to take on rejection and, where that kind of came from at a young age and, why you pushed through that summer in Chicago, till you made that 31 grand. Because I think that's the differentiating factor. You could put 1,000 people in a door-to-door sales job because of the fact that, it is very commission based, so anyone can get the job. But not many people can, last in it, let alone succeed in it. So what's the secret sauce?
Yeah, great question. I would say there's a few things on that. First of all, I want to start by saying, when I was a teenager and going through, that whole experience, I just remember having this burning desire and commitment that I was going to do whatever it took to reset the standard and completely change the game in my own personal life in the future, my future family, and really just, again, reset the standard completely, in terms of success and, earning opportunities and, impact and legacy, happiness, resolving trauma, just just reset that completely. Cause I was like, we're better than this. And I want more than this for my family in the future. And I didn't know how I was going to do that. In fact, there was in my bedroom, there's a few posters up on the wall, right? It's teenage boy. One of them's a Lamborghini. One of them is Pamela Anderson. I had Pamela Anderson on there. I think it might have been Cindy Crawford as well. And then there was my favorite NFL athlete was Jerry Rice. And at the bottom of the Jerry Rice poster, there was a simple sentence, and it says, "Today I will do what others won't, so that tomorrow I can have what others can't." And that one sentence, that one motto, really became almost a mantra for me. Where I was like, "Hey, I'm going to do whatever it takes." And I didn't know how I was going to do that, but whatever that was, I was going to pursue all opportunities and do whatever it took to be able to change this, right? And so, having really instilled that commitment, when I saw that opportunity to go out and knock doors, again, I knew it was going to be really hard, and there was nothing exciting about it besides the earning opportunity. And so I think that's one of the biggest keys that made me jump into it. The second thing was I realized that, hey, this is going to be really difficult and really hard. And I actually had a pretty good understanding just how challenging it would be. Not quite as, I didn't think it was going to be as hard as it was, but I've always believed that, personal growth comes from being on the fringe of your comfort zone. And I've always found myself in uncomfortable positions. And even today, we have, true financial freedom, and we've really accomplished, all the goals that I've set out to accomplish, and have this incredible lifestyle, and family, and time freedom, and financial freedom. But I'm actually working harder than I ever have in my life right now. But it's doing something that I love. And I just feel like, I'm the most fulfilled when I'm making forward progress, when I'm becoming the best version of myself. And, the idea of retirement or just coasting or taking it easy actually sounds terrible, man. Like that sounds like the idea of retirement. Seriously, it sounds like the worst thing, man. Like I want nothing to do with that. And so I think, so combination of, as a child, realizing I'm going to do whatever it takes to break through from this, mixed with really embracing challenges and hard things, because I know it's going to help create the best version of Dave Allred. And that mixed with, frankly, the fact that I was completely broke, living on, ramen noodles and fast food, and like I needed to make money. And, we'd make about $300 in a commission, which was way more, per sell, $300, way more than the $6 an hour I was making by driving 20 minutes away and manufacturing fiberglass flagpoles, which is what I was doing on a night shift. Right. And so I think it was a mix of those three things that really helped me to get through it. And the fourth one would just be, actually one of the guys, the owners came out midsummer in Chicago. He said, "Hey, anybody that sells over 100 accounts can qualify to become a sales manager the next year." And so for me, I was like, hey, the switch flipped for me. I'm like, hey, I could become a leader of men. I could become more of a manager, a leader. I could become, an actual career and a higher earning opportunity. And so I'd say it was a mix of those four things.
Love that. You mentioned the Jerry Rice quote, and I know we actually said that quote, in your intro, but, there's also a part of it that, how far can you really go? Did that young, Dave ever envision he'd be on a podcast talking about the fact that he manages $100 million fund? Like, there's one thing to be said about succeeding and in a job that requires a lot of hustle and a lot of grit, working door to door. It's another level of intelligence and EQ that's required to then say, and do what you are doing now. So let's talk about, how did you get over the hurdle of, maybe the mental hurdle of believing that you belong, in that conversation, where the number 100 million comes out, or did you always believe it all the way, all way through that, it was just a matter of time, that one day you were going to get to this point?
No, that's such a good question. I definitely, I think limiting beliefs are a real thing, and we all have these stories what we tell ourselves of what we're worth, what we should be able to earn, what kind of success that we deserve. And honestly, man, it took a lot of work to get past those limiting belief systems. And I think the key for me was this relentless commitment to personal development, trying to find the best version of myself. Those podcasts, masterminds, mentors, coaches, books, whatever else, and just really always just pushing to that next level. I think that for me, like my definition of a life well lived is just finding the best version of myself. And it's always about that next level, And so I think that's part of it. I think that another thing that really helped me was I created something called lifestyle design. And I sat down on a Sunday for 4 hours and I took an Excel spreadsheet. I said, okay, hey, listen, if I'm going to go out and knock doors, like I want to know why I'm doing this and what's the actual outcome that I'm really fighting for here. And so I wrote down 10 categories of my life that I want to be great at, right? So it's family, it's my time, it's finances, business, spiritual, personal development, experiences, relationships, etc. And I wrote down my definition of exactly how I would define winning in each one of those categories. And it was all in writing. It took 4 hours. And that gave me a lot of purpose in terms of like how would I define a life well lived with purpose, passion, intentionality, and no regrets. And it's been a beautiful process. And I've actually gone back to that spreadsheet now about every Sunday since then. And I update it, I internalize it, I add to it. So it's a living document. But that blueprint of what I want to accomplish in my life has been highly motivating because I'm never complacent. I'm never happy with where I am right now. It's okay. I'm working towards something much greater. And by the way, I call it lifestyle design. And if any of your users would like a copy of that, the template, it's on my website, daveallred.com. And it's a free download. I'm happy to share it. It's created value for, thousands of people now. And I'm really proud of that. But for me personally, it's really made a huge impact in my life with creating clarity. I think that most people meander through life, not really knowing what they really want to accomplish. And it's more just based on emotion or, what fires need to be put out that day. But if you know what you really want to accomplish, then you're able to make so much more intelligent decisions that are in alignment with that ultimate outcome. According to Google, we make 35,000 decisions per day, right? With what to wear, how fast to drive, what to eat, everything. And so if you know where your ultimate destination is, you're just going to get there so much faster and you make more intelligent, aligned decisions versus just trying to figure it out as you go. And the last thing I just want to mention is I feel grateful to have realized a long, long time ago that my core motivator is freedom. I want to have a ton of freedom in my life to be doing what I want to do with people I want to be doing it with when I want to do it. And that's such a motivator for me that when I see these hard things like going out and knocking doors or, climbing Mount Everest or running Ironmans, marathons, or running away from home or, starting a real estate fund, like those are hard things. Speaking on stages, that scares the hell out of me, man, like public speaking. But 2 years ago, I'm like, I'm just going to say yes every single opportunity because that's how I'm going to get past that fear and become great at it. And so just, that commitment to freedom has been such a motivator for me, man. And it helps me get through those hard things because I know on the other side of the hard thing is I'm going to have more freedom. So it's no longer scary or hard for me because I've already done it.
I love that. And so many takeaways from that. But one of the things that I want to highlight is what you had mentioned about lifestyle design. And what I love about what this show has enabled us to do is it's allowed us to bring on people such as yourself who are not only showing, what their pits were, but then offering up resources to help listeners out there access guides to help them rise up, because there's a lot of people out there that are going to be listening to this and kind of relating to the fact that there were opportunities where they could have perhaps found value or even from a monetary perspective reached goals that they had never envisioned, and opportunities such as the lifestyle design could help them navigate their steps. Now, you had mentioned your fear of speaking on stages and how you started down that journey, and that was actually something that I was going to bring up next. You've told me that you've traveled to 55 countries, you've done a Mount Everest expedition, you've spoken on stages worldwide. Again, let's go back to younger Dave. Younger Dave was very much an individual contributor. He was someone out there hunting. You talked about it yourself, being with your back against the wall and, just needing to make money because your options were limited at the time. And then even taking the opportunity to jump into leadership after closing 100 deals. There's a big difference between being a manager and then being an evangelist or a spokesperson or someone that you put on stage. Let's talk about that, and let's talk about where your comfort zone is right now when it comes to speaking, and what you've learned along the way.
So one of the goals that I set a while ago, maybe five or 6 years ago, was personally, I want to create direct value for at least 10 million people and help at least 1,000 people become financially independent through real estate investing. And so, I just see speaking on stage as a way where I can impact a lot more people at magnitude than I could. I used to do executive consulting. So, after I finished my 15-year leadership career with Groundwork Sales, I started doing executive consulting because I missed that, interpersonal development aspect of leadership. I'm still doing real estate, kind of full-time real estate, but executive consulting was a side hustle for me. But that trading, time, an hour for time for money was one. I just felt like it wasn't the highest and best use of my time. And so, I started doing some speaking engagements and it's grown to where, I now speak, multiple times per month. And honestly, I actually love it now. It's such a fun way to be able to create real value and impact for a lot of people, in the same amount of time that it would be one-on-one in consulting. Definitely not, haven't perfected the art of public speaking, but I think repetition is key. And I've been really grateful for those opportunities. I think that, I still get a little nervous sometimes, I get a little scared when you get on stage or beforehand, but I'd say mainly it's just an opportunity to be able to help impact, a lot of people and share what I've learned along the way. I'm a big fan of learning from other people. I think success leaves clues or leaves tracks. And I also believe there's real power in proximity. Kind of going back to your question on how do I break through some of those limiting beliefs and continue to up level? A lot of that is actually being around other people that are already doing what are already where I want to be, right? And so I think one of the biggest keys for me has been always paying a lot of attention to my circle and the people that I'm spending my time with. And I really try to be intentional with that and make sure I'm spending time with the people that are on the level of kind of where I want to get to next, right? Because when you have that proximity, man, there's real power in proximity. And when you can look at somebody in the eyes, like the white of their eyes, and be like, okay, all right, hey, if this guy can do it, it can't be that hard, right? And so I found a lot of value and a lot of acceleration by being around other people that are already where I want to be.
Absolutely. I mean, I preach it all the time, surrounding yourself with people that are, stronger, smarter, faster than you. And to your point, just being where it is that you want to be. Sometimes taking a back seat and just, soaking in and listening and understanding, what their daily practices are and trying to apply it on your own. I want to ask you with regards to your segue into the real estate world. We didn't actually touch on how you got started in real estate. We talked about where your career got started, but let's talk about that a little bit.
Sure. So when I was 30 years old, I had been talking about financial freedom for a long time. And there's a big difference between wanting and being committed to it. And so I sat down when I was 30 years old and I had a few hours. I'm like, all right, I'm gonna figure out the blueprint here and how I'm actually going to achieve financial freedom. And by the way, I would define financial freedom as having enough reoccurring passive income, like mailbox money, to cover your entire cost of living, right? Your mortgage, your car payments, your cell phone, food, all of that. And so I sat down, and it's actually a very simple equation. I'll share it with you guys. So you take a spreadsheet. The first line item is, what's your current cost of living? Everything all included. Let's say it's $200,000. The next line item is, what's my current passive income? And passive income means income you're making without trading your time for the money, right? It's money you're making while you're sleeping. And for me, that's real estate income. And so let's say you have $50,000 in recurring passive income from a condo or townhome or some dividend stocks, whatever. So the next line item is, what's the gap? So in that situation, it'd be $150,000. The next line item, how many years am I willing to commit to achieve true financial freedom? And for me, it was 10 years. Yeah. And so then, you divide that number, $150,000 by 10 years, it's $15,000 of new passive income per year. So it's really that simple. So I needed to create $15,000 of new passive income per year, and I would achieve true financial freedom in 10 years. And so again, I was 30 years old. And so for me, it was, okay, I need 40 rental properties because I would create that passive income number by age 40. So I created 40 by 40. And so my passwords on my iPhone, my back screen on my iPhone, everything was 40 by 40. And I just really internalized that. Every Sunday I would sit down, I would track my progress there. And by the way, writing your goals down it's so important. Not only does it hold you accountable, but it helps you see those incremental improvements as you make progress towards that goal. And so, I tracked it every single Sunday, and I ended up hitting that goal when I was 40 years old. And that's when I retired from door-to-door sales and went full-time into real estate. And I celebrated for about a day, took my wife out to Ruth Chris, got a steak. And the next day I was like, okay, what's next? And what's next was I wanted to have ownership in 1,000 rental properties by age 40. And so that's when I went all in on real estate, and was able to hit that goal when I turned 40. Actually, 1 month before I turned 41, I accomplished that goal. And and that's when I decided to then launch Axia Partners, which is our real estate fund. And so kind of the story behind, and what Axia does is we invest in recession resilient commercial real estate all across the country. So we invest in multifamily apartment complexes. I love those. It's bread and butter. It's a necessity. People have to have housing. We invest in storage units, which are historically the most recession resilient asset. And then also in RV parks, which are huge cash cows. And then also an industrial warehouse, which is like Amazon fulfillment centers, because the projections are in the next 5 years, that should be the top performing asset across all of real estate. And so we picked those 4 asset types because they're recession resilient. We're actually in our 3rd fund offering right now, raising a $40 million equity fund. We're about halfway through that fund right now. And so when people invest with us, they actually get real equity ownership basically in all these different assets across the country. And the reason why I jumped into the fund structure was because it just mitigates a lot of the downside risk. And everybody knows the housing market's been really hot for time. I'm really proud to be able to say that, with over 400 investors, I've never once lost a single dollar investor capital in real estate. And I'm proud of that. And so I wanted to move into the funds model because it for that risk diversification in multiple different real estate sectors. And so that's really was kind of the inspiration behind jumping into the fund. Also, we can have hundreds of investors come in, so we can create a lot more value for a lot more people versus just doing it on my own or these smaller joint ventures. And so that's really the inspiration behind it. Really excited about the team we have and where we're headed as a fund. Our goal is we're already over 100 million. Our goal is to be at $1 billion plus as an investment firm by 2025. So we got a lot of work in front of us, but super grateful for that. I love real estate. I mean, you can probably tell I feel like it really is the best way to create not just financial freedom, but time freedom and lifestyle freedom, and as well as like a tax deductible lifestyle, which is so important. There's so many tax deductions and benefits in real estate. So I've been really grateful for that. And, now it's fun to be able to share that and to help bring a lot of my friends. And, I have, 400 plus investors, and it's all my social, my friends. It's my social network. I've never paid for an ad or a lead or anything. It's just, a lot of repeat investors, and it's been a really fun journey, man.
If you know me, you know that I like to look good and feel good. As an endurance athlete who trains daily, I need my wardrobe to fit the mold. Rhone creates performance-driven clothing for your active lifestyle. Each piece is designed for versatility and made with integrity to outfit you for an active life lived on your own terms. The Rhone promise is to help you move forever forward. Use code MILE40 for 20% off online and in-store for new customers only. Visit www.rhone.com, that's Rhone spelled RHONE, or find your local store and move forever forward starting today. That's awesome. What's really cool about watching you talk about all that is seeing your eyes light up. You genuinely find happiness in what you're doing right now. And that speaks volumes, because there's a lot of people out there who may be listening to the beginning of this episode and thinking, all right, he needed the money, so he had to hustle to get the money. But you took a very calculated and literally calculated, because you talk about how you reverse engineered at the age of 30 path to get to where you are right now in running a huge fund. And my next question you kind of answered. I was going to ask you about how you built your investor base, because again, when you think about where you started and where you are right now, that had to be intimidating in and of itself. But maybe let's talk about where your first few investors came from. Was that, strictly within your network when you first got started?
Yeah, happy to answer that question. I want to back up just real quick though on your last comment where, there's nothing really, that exciting about real estate. And I actually agree with you, man. Like at the end of the day, real estate, it's brick, mortar, it's cement and glass. Like there's nothing that exciting about real estate, right? But what I've really, really loved, man, is, but it is also very, it's brick and mortar is tangible. Like it's a great investment, it holds its value. It's great real value for the community, for tenants, et cetera. But you're right. It's not, as an investor, there's nothing really that exciting about it. What I love about real estate though, is like with our approach at Axia Partners, is it's creating experiences and relationships and value around the real estate. And so as an example, for me to be able to bring in hundreds of my friends to create real value and passive income and financial freedom for them, that's pretty exciting. I get a lot of fulfillment out of that. Also, the tagline for Axia Partners, like on our homepage, the first thing it says is experiential investing. And I'm big on experiences. I believe that experience are the new economy. Everybody wants experiences. Baby boomers, Gen Z, everybody, and they're willing to pay for it. And so, whether you're a store salesperson, a business owner, entrepreneur, I would challenge your listeners to really think about how you can make an experience for your customers. People love experiences. We are now in the experience economy. And so with Axia, what we do is, not only focus on a strong ROI, return on investment, but also an ROE, a return on experience and education. As an example, every month we have a webinar where we have the top real estate guys in the country come on, just teach and train for an hour. Whenever we have a deal that we close on, we do a webinar for an hour and we show exactly how we found the deal, the model, how we source the debt, like the whole business model. So it's just full transparency in order to help teach our partners how we do what we do. And it's been received very, very well. I've yet to see any other investment firm that's so committed to transparency and education and experiences. So with that being said, I think that's actually a big able to grow our investor base. Is, a lot of people really want to know how to do large commercial real estate. They just lack the competence or the competence on how to do it. Right. And so if we can create value in a unique value proposition where we're teaching people how to do what we do, it's been received very, very well. And that's very, very well. And so now going back to your question on my first few investors, that's actually a great question. I haven't thought about that for a long time, but what it was, so I was a sales leader, managing all these different teams and creating value for my salespeople and teaching, training, helping recruit, leadership in general. And then when I exited from that company, I was able to have those really strong relationships. And a lot of those guys, because of that respect or that mutual, respect, I would say, that relationship capital, we had that authentic, organic relationship there. So when they started to see me really winning at real estate, and by the time I jumped out of that company, I already had a lot of doors and had made a lot of success there. It was really fun to build. It just naturally they wanted to be doing what I was doing. And
Got
so,
it.
I've always said, I don't like to chase capital. I like to attract capital. And so when I've actually done it, I've actually gone through that process. I think that, people just kind of want to follow those footsteps. And so, I started to do what's called syndications, which means that you have a big commercial deal. It's called an apartment complex in Dallas, and it's $25 million, right? And I can only cover a portion of that. So I bring in my friends to help fund the deal. So it's called a syndication. And so I started doing those smaller syndications, and they went very, very well, and ended up doing about a dozen syndications. And it gets to a point where it's more just plug and play with repeat investors, where we won on previous deals. And so it's like, okay, what's next? What's next? And it's literally almost like a plug and play, to continue investing. And to me, that's the ultimate, token of winning, is when you get repeat investors that just continually will come back with you, and then they tell their friends about it, and their other sales managers, and then the executives, and then the other business owners. And so really just, I'd say, I guess the answer is reputation. To summarize my answer, it'd just be trust and reputation.
That's awesome. I mean, that is truly at the cornerstone of how a business is properly built. And so it's awesome to hear just a story of organic growth. And literally, again, from the ground up. I want to talk a little bit about your personal mission, right? You've said that it's about creating value, inspiring others to achieve freedom through lifestyle investing. You also had mentioned to me that you launched the Allred Family Foundation. So I want to talk a little bit about that, and in terms of, when you look back on this in several years, what is it that you want to impart, on your children and, the people who have come across you in your lifetime?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's also a big question. I'm not sure how much of your listener base have, are parents, but I will say that, out of all the things I've accomplished, by far my greatest joy and fulfillment is my family. It's also one of the hardest things. Like, parenting is hard. I think that, what I really want to impart with them is I want them to make a difference in the world, and I want them to be authentic to themselves. I want them to really live their best life, and I hope that I'm able to be an inspiration for them, to inspire them to chase down their own dreams. You asked about the Family Foundation. So about 2 years ago, so backing up a little bit, all my children are my employees of my personal real estate company. Not only is it a really interesting tax play, it's not tax deductible, I'm not a CPA, but literally you can pay an employee wages that are tax deductible, and then if they're less than $12,900 per year, then it's below the threshold to have to file taxes. And so it's really interesting, some tax strategy there, but also just teaching your children how to do real estate, how to invest, and how to manage money. It's a travesty that our public school system doesn't teach anything about personal finances, not how to square up a checking account, federal taxes, compound interest, any of this stuff. And not to go on a tangent there, but I think that is by design, right? I think that, financial freedom creates free agency, and then you can, anyway, that's it. We won't go down that rabbit hole
you're
right
good.
now,
It's fine. It's fine.
and so for me as a father, like, one of the greatest things that I think I can do is teach my children, how to be financially responsible, and how to win in the game of money. And so they're all my employees, and a portion of the salary that they receive goes into our family foundation automatically. Basically, actually, so 10% goes into giving back, 30% is discretionary spending on whatever they want, no questions asked, and then 60% goes into investing or saving for education. And so all of my children have been investing into real estate and different investments for a while now. And so, kind of a quick story, actually, my oldest daughter, she really wanted a Tesla Model 3. She turned 16 about 6 months ago. And I'm like, no, we're not going to buy you a Tesla Model 3. That's ridiculous. Like, you don't need that kind of car. But she kept pushing for it, which, by the way, as a salesperson, when you teach your children how to be good salespeople, it's a two-edged sword, because next thing you know, that no means yes. And next thing you know, I'm not a pet person. We've got dogs and cats and a Tesla Model 3, which I'll come back to in a second. But it's you teach them those skills, and they end up kind of using it back against you as a parent. But overall, proud of them. But my daughter's like, hey, I want this Tesla. I'm like, you know what? Actually, instead of saying no, the higher quality answer is, okay, if you want a discretionary item like that, or a depreciating asset like that, then figure out how to create enough passive income to be able to cover the cost of the vehicle. And so 2 weeks later, we got a strategy put together. She sold off some of her stocks that she'd bought. She's been working since 14 years old. So 2 years of work, hard work, serving food. And she sold off her stocks, sold off some cryptocurrency that she invested in Ethereum and Bitcoin, took all that capital and partnered with me on a duplex and as a JV, joint venture. Yeah. So she came as a partner with me, and that investment now kicks off, $350 a month, which is exactly what her car payment is. And so now she has, through her cash flow, so she's not using up any of her actual principal, and that real estate's still appreciating. So she's making money long term, but the cash flow is now paying for that vehicle that she really wants. And now she has the vehicle of her dreams, and she's super stoked about it. And but as a dad, that's so fun to be able to teach your children, about how to look at, smart investing. And so going back to your question on the Founding Foundation, so a portion of that salary goes into the Founding Foundation, and it's super simple to set it up. If anybody wants to reach out to me on Instagram or shoot me a DM, I'm happy to kind of explain the process. But we set up a board of directors, and each of my children are on the board of directors. And so they got to choose whatever charity they wanted to support. So my son's helping the Wounded Warrior Project. My older daughter's helping single mothers. My other daughter's helping the Operation Underground Railroad to help with, sex slavery, sex trafficking. And so it's real. And my youngest daughter chose a dog pound in our city. And so we walk in there and hand them some cash, once a quarter. And it's just really cool, man, to be able to teach your children, when they're young, the power of giving back. And I really believe that the more you give, the more you live. And so just really trying to instill that and teach that, and I do think that children learn the best through participation versus just, telling them or talking to them. If they can actually do it, is how I found that my children learn the best.
Yeah, man. And like you mentioned it earlier, but I want to make sure that I repeat it. And this came up on a previous episode as well. But competence does breed confidence. And, you had alluded to it, but even in this case with your daughter, you transferred a level of competency that, for now we'll give her the car that she wants to drive, but later in life will enable her to do so much more. And it's so awesome that you set that foundation up for her. I think that was the perfect example of what it is that you are trying to build. I feel like we touched on pretty much everything around, you and what you've built so far. Is there anything else that you want the Mile 40 audience to walk away from this episode, maybe associating you with? You've built a beautiful family. You've established the lifestyle that you wanted and pursued your dream of freedom at the age that you wanted it. You talk about how you reversed engineered your way there. And a reminder for everybody listening, Dave grew up not having much at all, and in a family that was a little bit broken at first. Is there, and you talked about your mantra, but aside from your mantra, maybe, do today what others won't, so tomorrow you can have what others can't. Is there anything else that perhaps drives you and that you want to leave for the Mile 40 audience?
Yeah, I'm actually so many things come to mind, but high level, I would say one is if something scares you, just do it. If something scares you, it usually means you should do it. The second thing that comes to mind is, living life with intentionality is so important. And it's not easy to figure out what you really define as a life well lived. But I promise it's time well spent to, reflect back on that, really put your thoughts together on how you define a life well lived. There's a book called How Will You Measure Your Life by Clayton Christensen. And in it, he talks about writing your own eulogy. And I actually did this a few years ago. Your eulogy is basically what you want. You hope your kids, your wife, your neighbors, your friends, people you love are going to say about your life and your legacy, right? And so, if you can just write that down, it actually gives you a lot of clarity in terms of what really, at your deepest core, what really matters to you, right? And if you know that, you've identified it, then you can actually make a lot better decisions because it's going to be aligned with, does that actually create the impact? Is it aligned with what I really want to do in my life? And then maybe the last thing I would say is just simply that, I lost my mom unexpectedly about 4 years ago. My dad's has Parkinson's disease, which is a chronic, it's a really tough degenerative disease. So I thought a lot about mortality. And at the end of the day, I really feel like, when I look back at my life, there's really three things that matter the most. And those are relationships, memories, and experiences. And I think that if I've done a good job loving the people that love me and fostering relationships, creating epic memories and having some really awesome experiences in my life that are meaningful, like at the end of the day, I'm not gonna have any regrets from that. And so I'll kind of leave it at that. I think that relationships, memories, and experiences are probably the most important thing when we really look back on our lives. And so, if you know that, then you can be making those decisions right now and how you run your businesses and how you parent and how you show up as a father, as a husband. So anyway, I got a whole bunch more, but I should probably wrap it up right there for you. Maybe I'll do round two. We can go deeper on that one. But I appreciate the opportunity to be on here with you and love the conversation.
Dave, I appreciate you so much. Thank you so much for coming on board. I mean, you have an abundance of wisdom to share, and you are the true personification of grit, resilience, and entrepreneurship folded into one. So thanks again. Really appreciate you. Everybody, please go check out Dave's website. Check out Lifestyle Design. He has made it perfectly clear that he is open and welcome to anyone reaching out to him in order to learn a little bit more about his journey and to honestly seek out help for us individually. So thanks again, Dave. Really appreciate it.
Have a great day. Thank you.